Hello and welcome to Tech. Today, the topic of discussion is going to be about bringing AI home, and in particular, the rise of generative AI in our everyday life. On this podcast, as you know, if you've been following along, we had talked about Gen AI. You really cannot not talk about it right now, right? Everybody in tech and outside of tech is probably one of those technologies that has the more interest among regular consumers. Has been talking about generative AI, and we talked about it in the context of productivity and work, but we haven't really kind of dug into what it means more in a personal context and how it's going to permeate our homes. And I thought a good starting point to address this is really looking at personal assistants and the role that they had in our home over the years, starting with Alexa. And this is a good moment, if you're listening to this, to go and mute your Alexas in the house or the office or where you are before they all go off. I've done that with mine. And the role that these assistants have had in our life. What was interesting to me was that the beginning of the whole ChatGPT, Copilot, and Google Bart, there were a lot of comparison, a lot of people trying to draw a comparison between where the assistants are today and this new still assistant or aids that are generative AI, which I thought was a bit of a unfair comparison. And today I invited someone that probably knows best than anybody else to come and have this discussion with me. I asked Rohit Prasad, who is Amazon Senior VP and Head Scientist for Alexa, to join me today to discuss what is different, what is the same, how generative AI and an assistant like Alexa are going to work together to get us to a more rich and experiential, I guess is the word I'm looking for, life in our home. So help me welcome Rohit to our conversation. Hi, Rohit. Good to
Hi,
see you.
Caroline. Thank you for having me here, Caroline. I'm very excited to be on it.
Thank you. I appreciate it because I always enjoy our conversation. I think that, first of all, your knowledge, but the thing I appreciate the most is how you actually are able to have a conversation about something as complicated as AI in a way that I can understand it. So I'm sure that the audience will be as appreciative as I am.
Great to be here.
So I think it's fair to start with a little bit of the context setting and also a recap maybe from your perspective of where we are today with Alexa and more generically general assistance, so that we understand, because I kind of think that you probably agree with me that the comparison with, ChatGPT is not really right. Just because it's AI doesn't mean that the two things are necessarily the same. So help me and help the audience understand the journey and where we are today.
Yeah, I have to pinch myself every day on where we are, right? I mean, it's like fascinating. What used to be simply a whiteboard drawing has now become the most used AI in form of Alexa, and more than half a billion devices worldwide that have an Alexa-enabled endpoint, and customers are using them every day. And to me, that is a big testament to that Alexa is the most used AI, a personal AI in homes, and that has happened with incredible momentum on AI, starting with what 10 years back, the wave of deep learning married with incredible amount of computing and data brought it all to fruition. And now we are in the next level of evolution where what we are seeing is more generalized intelligence in the form of where what I would call generative AI or large language models are simply a waypoint in that journey towards more generalized intelligence that can do much more and be more useful. And as you said, useful in every context. And I'm incredibly proud of what Alexa is doing for our customers in their homes as their personal AI, To just give you another data point, that just in the last year, in 2022, engagement with Alexa grew by more than 35%, and that tells you that this AI is very useful for our customers in their homes.
Yeah, there's no question about, I think, the level of usage and how more comfortable, I think, consumers, normal consumers, everyday consumers have become, trusting this voice in their home, helping them do different things, cutting down on the steps to do something, and making some of the experiences more, not just more simple, but also more elegant and useful to them. But I'm curious, when I'm thinking about generative AI and Alexa, one thing, and so if I think about large language model in Alexa, one thing that at the beginning I was very strong about was trying to get people to understand that Alexa is going to get better as you use her. Is a she for me, and as you are investing in sharing, data and information with generative AI in the way that we use it. The idea is that you have a bunch of data that gets thrown into a model, and that allows for generative AI to function, to happen. Well, that's different, right? When you're talking about personal data, which is what Alexa has to build on to be useful to me.
Yeah, I would say there are many differences, and this is why I've said before to comparing Alexa to some of the generative AI products that are available today is not fair to either of them, because they're after very different things at this stage, and or in their product evolution. And while some of the technology on the back end is definitely shared, like Alexa uses a large language model in the back end for many of the things it does already. But what you have to think about is Alexa is essentially an instantly available AI that you don't need to have a screen-based device like a phone or a browser open on your desktop and a keyboard. It is essentially available through what is the most natural way of interacting with AI, and that is to speak, and which we are all used to. And it's just bringing that convenience of voice in an instantly available setting on devices that are around you. They're communal, and yet it knows you. Like if you have told Alexa who you are, it knows you and it personalizes the experiences to you. It will give you updates for your sports team. When you ask how are the Cubs doing, it knows exactly which Cubs you mean. And these are the important aspects of a personal AI that is in your home on your instantly available devices versus you going somewhere or picking up your phone. Huge difference. And from that perspective onwards, I would say that was at the level of essentially the interaction paradigm. And
Yes.
then you have to look at the science behind it. Alexa is a general purpose personal AI, which understands your speech. It responds to you in the right way. It controls hundreds of devices. Like if you look at, it's connected to the real world, and that's an incredible challenge for large language models. Because if you think about the kind of things large language models have to do for Alexa, it's not just conversational interaction, but it has to control a lot of devices in your home. It has to be able to simply respond in super fast latency or very low latency when you say play music by Taylor Swift, and it should just know which particular song to play for you. So all of these things together are real challenges for large language models, as where the state of the art is today. So I would say, so both the interaction paradigm and the technology behind has a lot of differences, and we have a lot of work to do in making large language models really work at scale for the problems like Alexa.
Yeah. One of the things, though, that struck me is that one thing that, in my opinion, the two have in common is that y- the answer you're going to get, whether you're using ChatGPT or Alexa, is only going to be as good as the question you're asking, right? And you have done a lot of work from the very beginning to change how Alexa responds to certain things so that I don't have to overthink and be consistent in the way that I ask the question. I always appreciate when I forget what name I gave to my lights and Alexa comes back and say, well, did you mean this? And I was like, yes. And so then she says, okay, I will now add, this other way of calling your lights so that I know what it is. That's a lot of work that has gone into your process through the year.
Absolutely. I think there are multiple things there again. First, as you said, the conversational understanding has to be fluent, where it should be able to generalize to every way you refer to a particular request. And in that sense, so that's on the input side of understanding the words that you are speaking and how to interpret them in the context of, as you mentioned, it's a light that you may have named Carolina's bedroom light, but you're just referring it to as bedroom light,
Bedroom light.
right? So
Yeah,
you've dropped
that's exactly
the
what happens. Yes.
so and it looks like this is the beauty of Alexa, that what seems extremely simple is because it has made it simple. If you think about what I just talked about, it needs to know that you have multiple lights hooked up, where you are, how do you refer to that particular light on a daily basis. And this is where Alexa also has a self-learning component, that based on your interaction patterns and what you do, because the first time it's possible you called it, you named it Carolina's bedroom light, but then you came back and said, turn on the bedroom light, and it came back and said, wait, I don't know that. And you may have rephrased it next time to say, uh, turn on the Carolina's bedroom light. Now it knows that bedroom light is really Carolina's bedroom light, and it's become smarter for you without you having to do anything, or a developer or a scientist on the team having to do anything. That's a key aspect of what you just talked about, how these AIs, these personal AIs, need to get truly personal and continually improve on your behalf. And you also touched a bit, Carolina, on the last part, which I also want to refer, which we, in conversational interactions like this, becomes incredibly important, especially if you're not on a screen based surface. You would not like it, or it would be suboptimal if Alexa gave an answer which was a page long, because
Right.
when you and I are talking, we don't have that much of a cognitive attention in terms of uh, understanding just a response which is that long. So it has to be terse, it has to be to the point, and it should be factually correct. And
Yeah.
those are all three very high barriers to getting the right kind of experience, even if you have the best large language models with you.
Yeah. So now that we're a little bit more clear as to what the differences are and some of the challenges that the two technologies share, can you talk about, when you're looking at generative AI, what, in your opinion, is the role that generative AI can play in making our experience at home more personalized and adapted for our, likes and needs?
Yeah, first, I think generative AI, as I said, is a waypoint towards more generalized intelligence. And I think we'll find that generative AI is going to be transformational in many areas, including the home. And the way to think about how generative AI becomes more useful in the home setting as your personal AI that can do anything and everything for you, given the social norms and so forth, is going to come down to solving three key challenges. One, if you think about what is commonly referred to hallucination,
Yes.
which in generative task is actually may not be a defect if you're trying to brainstorm, or if you're trying to have some creative juices flow. Hallucinations are great, but when you're trying to reliably do a task like Alexa does in the context of controlling your home, for instance, in terms of your smart devices around you. If you came in and said, Alexa, I'm feeling hot here, or I feel this is too warm, it should come back and ask you, do you want to turn down the thermostat or lower the temperature? It shouldn't tell you to go to the beach. It shouldn't say it's hot, you should consider going to the beach, right? So
Well, I don't know. I appreciate that suggestion, but that's a different story.
so, but in this is why AI is such a hard problem because the context is so crucial,
Yeah.
and this is where controlling hallucination becomes one of the key aspects of what we think of as reliability and consistency are key aspects of a useful, trusted, and indispensable personal AI. So that's a very critical aspect of things. Second, a personal AI can't be a language model that is archived in time and not current. So
Yes.
integrating it with real world knowledge of what's going around in the world becomes extremely key. And when that happens, you have to be looking at serving the trusted answers, trusted sources, and making sure that the responses are relevant in time. And those are again a very hard problem. uh, and the third one is when you're actually connected to the real world, whether a physical world in terms of robots, or if you're connected to, even if it's not robots, just all these appliances around you or services around you that actually do things, the reliability bar shifts way high in terms of that you can't make mistakes at the same level. So that the third challenge is essentially, how do you connect these many services and devices and provide a very heterogeneous, what is a heterogeneous world, and yet drive a very homogeneous experience, is an unsolved challenge at this scale, where that requires interacting with thousands and thousands of services that Alexa already integrates without you thinking about it, right? The fact that you can simply ask weather and it is already, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to install anything on your devices, and Alexa tells you the weather most. So we have taken away all the complexity from the customer, and this is still early in the generative AI world right now.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about the car as a great example where, Alexa is already integrated, but where, to your point, you really have no margin of error there, right? If something goes wrong, you're putting people's life at risk. And so it's not the same as asking to write a poem or, do a query on, the news or something like that. Um, Talking about something else that matters a lot to consumers and something that you have had a great deal of focus, honestly at the beginning, because there were some concerns, is privacy, right? You had to go through the process of explaining to people how Alexa worked and the connection to the cloud, and how the data was shared and used. And that has become such a big center, focus for you to really gain consumers' trust, and therefore engagement with Alexa. What are the potential privacy and security concerns that you have when thinking about implementing Gen AI in our homes?
Yeah, first, privacy is paramount. If you think from our perspective, we want to be the trusted AI for our customers. And when you think about trusted AI, and especially if you think about the evolution towards more generalized intelligence, again, one form being generative AI today, is important to believe in what will be durable. And what will be durable is that the aspect of trust we want in the AI is very similar to what we want in a trusted human. And in a trusted human, those attributes are competency. You trust a person if they're competent at what they do or what they claim to do. Second is you would want them to be reliable and consistent. Like you don't want them to change, or when they change, then they have to have a pretty good explanation for why
Right.
change the stance or so forth. Third, which is very relevant in the context of privacy, but is absolutely critical, is discreteness. If I share something with you, and I tell you that please keep it confidential, or you apply that judgment that this is something, a very intimate detail that I shouldn't be sharing with someone else, that's discreteness, and the AI should have the same kind of attribute. And last, but very importantly, is in my mind is also the ethics and respect for the societal norms. And all four of these elements are key in the next phase of pursuit of this generalized intelligence, and are highly relevant in the world of generative AI. On all these four elements of what I think of as trust, and privacy is a key part of it.
It, I mean, the point makes so much sense to me, and I think that oftentimes, despite the fact that we call Alexa and our assistant, we don't think about them as similar to a human being in the kind of a relationship that we are trying to establish. And I couldn't agree more that with you that consistency and being discreet help drive that trust, and with trust the level of engagement. Um,
Caroline, if I may, on that,
yeah,
build on that a bit, like you'll notice I never use the word, or if I use the word assistant, then I did Alexa a disservice. In my mind, it's a personal AI that plays three key different roles or attributes it exhibits. One is, of course, the assistant persona, which we think of it very commonly. And when I think of assistant, it's helping you do tasks, it is helping you save
yeah,
your time. But then there are two other ones which are very important as the personal AI. The second is, I think of it as an advisor, that it advises you on certain things. Like advisor helps you save money, make money, or be more responsible, right? If it's advising you to, you want me to set a routine that I lower the temperature when you leave, right? During winter, if you're not home, that's saving you. It's giving you an advice on a certain topic. And lastly, which is where I think the trust bar goes even higher, when it's a companion. And we're finding for the elderly and the kids, Alexa is also a companion, and the trust bar goes even higher in
yeah.
that element. This is where, if you're interacting with kids, you do not want to give wrong answers, or on some basic topics too, or so these are the ways that the companion bar also is very high. And this is again bringing back to the framing I gave you about how to think about trust and personal AI.
I appreciate that, because I think that I'm not alone, and I should know better given my job. But in being a little bit stuck in a way to what Alexa used to do at the very beginning, and how it was positioned. And obviously, 10 years on, Alexa has grown, and so is the role that she can play in our lives. And I recognize all the use cases that you just mentioned. I just still think about it as an assistant. um, Thinking about the evolution, as I was saying, Alexa's grown, and with that, uh, also the role that Amazon wants to play in our homes, and the idea of ambient computing and ambient AI has come on in your conversation. And that is, things like the Fire TV, and the idea that you have the ability now to create art that is based on your surrounding, your weather, and other components that are taken from my life. How do you think about Gen AI in that respect, as far as either creating a task, or generating artwork for our home, or music, or anything like that?
Yeah, first, I'll just unpack a few things you said there, because ambient AI to me is an intelligence that is there when you need it, and it recedes to the background when you don't need it.
Correct.
So it's essentially has this, what I think of a user initiated or a reactive assistance, where the AI is reacting to what you want. And then there is the proactive elements, where AI is initiating an interaction with you. For instance, if you have instructed it through automations, or what we call routines, to turn on the lights at sunset. So now it's proactively does that every day, because you've given it an instruction. Or it tells you, if you've enabled a feature called hunches, it gives you a hunch that, hey, I think you left the garage light on, Carolina, and it's bedtime. So clearly, it wasn't
You
your
want to turn
intentional,
them off.
maybe,
Yeah.
right? There's nobody in there. That's the second element of it. And as I think about ambient intelligence, it's an intelligence that is woven around you, which means it has to be so capable generally that it can do anything for you, right? And from that perspective, this is why generalized intelligence and generative AI as one form of it that's giving that semblance is an important aspect. And some of the use cases that you mentioned, that on a TV, which is a big screen, can generative AI put a beautiful artwork as a screensaver or so forth, is definitely something that we have worked on, we have talked about. This is where you could say, show me cherry blossoms in Tokyo, right? So, and it can, or you can put cherry blossoms on Mars, right? So that can you can get your creative juices going on that one, and that's just native to generative AI. It's pretty good at those kind of tasks. And again, bringing the convenience of ambient intelligence on devices that are communal in your home, that multiple people interact with, is another great opportunity for creative. One of the things that I mentioned to you already is how kids interact with Alexa, and we have a Creates with Alexa experience, which is again using generative technology, but very much in terms of the right guardrails for kids' experiences, where you can co-create stories. So these are all great examples of generative AI being deployed in the most useful and responsible fashion.
So it is interesting that you end that on responsible, right? Because when I look at the current limitations or challenges that I see with generative AI, ethics and deploying the technology responsibly is one of those. How do you think about this? What do you see as, you talked a little bit about some of the challenges that you see, but from a limitations perspective that we see today, and where you would like Gen AI to be in order for you to be able to take advantage of it responsibly?
Yeah, I think responsible AI is paramount. Again, just like when I touched upon trust, it's the same elements that are applicable here, and we have to be using it the right way, with the right controls, because it's still very early in terms of providing the right controllability for technologies like generative AI. You have to have the right controls built into it so that it does task that you have designed it for, and doesn't go off the rails in these. So this is where a lot of adversarial testing is needed, a lot of more of encoding these norms of engagement have to be encoded in these models. And we are working very seriously on these, and we'll continue to do so across our businesses. And some of it will be very use case dependent, but there are broad principles that we need to be applying in terms of how these technologies get deployed.
It is always incredible to me that we can have this conversation for a very long time, but we are at time already. We have spent our 30 minutes having a great conversation, thanks to, as I said, your ability to break down something very complex in very simple terms. And I wanted to ask, because I always encourage people not to just listen to our podcast and that's the end of it, but continue the conversation. Where can people find you to engage more and follow your blogs and your thought leadership?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a pretty good channel, and our Amazon blogs are also a good place to find me. So I look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciated the conversation, and I look forward to seeing what else are you going to be able to enable. As I don't know if you like to be seen as the father of Alexa, but that's kind of how I think about you.
That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. I had a great time here, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care.